Hello, everyone. We've now got the divisional round in the books. It's all blaze no glory, another craft beer Wednesday. That was better. That's the best one so far, Kenny. How are you doing anyway?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I had a bit of technology faux pas as we started to get online tonight. So slightly different view from me today, but I am here, willing, ready, and whether I'm able or not, we will find out.
You're not quite actually as fuzzy as you were last week, so that's an improvement.
That's an improvement on technology. It's just not how I want to do it, how I want to be set up. I'm just slightly all over the place, but I'm all good. I'm here.
That's fair. So we're obviously going to preview the NSC and AFC Championship games, but looking back just briefly, pretty good weekend of football, Kenny.
I thought it was a great weekend of football, to be honest. I mean, I believe it's the first time that all four games in the divisional round have been literally had the scores tied as the game time ran out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think you can have closer games than that. I thought all the games were tight, obviously. I thought all the games were exciting. All four could have gone either, both ways. So, yeah, I thought all in all, for the neutral fan, a very good weekend.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, I think if your fan base is the teams that lost, it's heartbreaking. But in terms of actual quality, I would rather, I guess it's not easy for me to say because the Rams won their game, but I guess I would rather see my team go out like that than end up being like a damn squib and just get pounded into submission, as some teams were the week before. You know, Steelers weren't there, Eagles, it wasn't fun, you know.
Yeah, no, I would, yeah, I probably would agree with that. I mean, like, there is that heartbreaking factor. I think 3 of the teams that I picked lost at the weekend. So I mean, yeah, I wanted Green Bay to go through. I wanted the Bills to go through, but they were both cracking games of football. So, as the fan that doesn't have a team left, really, that I support or like to see do well, it was a bit of a downer over the weekend, but couldn't fault the quality of football.
Yeah, I went from being 6 for 6 in the first weekend to 1 for 4. I genuinely thought the Bills would beat the Chiefs, and I didn't just pick that for a laugh. I really thought the way the Bills were playing, they'd beat the Chiefs. I thought the Titans would own the Bengals, and I thought Green Bay would beat San Francisco. I did think the Rams would beat Tampa, but not quite in the manner that they went about it. But yeah, I mean, in terms of excitement and tension, it was incredible. They were all different. It was all in different ways as well. Like, you know, that first game, the Bengals Titans game was exciting, but it was scrappy, and there was fumbles.
Yeah, it wasn't. You couldn't say it was good finesse football. There was a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties in that game, I think. Or if at least there weren't penalties, there were almost penalties. I think, you know, the refs did let them play, but it was like, yeah, I mean, like you said, it was scrappy. It was trench football, as I think some of our more knowledgeable counterparts might put it. You know, the game was won and lost in the trenches. There was a lot of line play. It was a lot of 3-yard runs. It was a lot of dump off passes because there was nothing really there, which led to all games are stop and start, but neither team really got on a roll.
No,
you know, I think if you compare the Bengals game to the Bills Chiefs game, I know you said before we started filming that you hadn't really seen much of that game, but I think the scoreline kind of tells you as well that it was just drive after drive for both teams that were, yep, they're going to score here, or it's at least going to be a field goal. And not all of them did, but they were still going on like lengthy 7, 8, 9, 10 play drives, whereas the Bengals game was the same number of plays, but they were going half the distance. There wasn't that deep threat in those games.
Yeah, I think the big thing for the Bengals that they're going to have to overcome against the Chiefs is their line, their O-line, because Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times in that game, and credit to him for making plays when they had to and taking those hits and getting back up and getting on with it. That would have sent a lesser man to their...
were hit so many times in that game. Not just sacked, but they were hit so many times.
Yeah. And of course, the other factor in that game, which clearly he wasn't 100%, was Derrick Henry wasn't all there.
No,
and the decoy of Derrick Henry wasn't being bought into because clearly the Bengals done enough. Anyway, to move on to the next game, I mean, again, I didn't see the late night games are hard for me to stay up and watch because I have things on the next day, as it will be for you. But the Green Bay San Francisco game, I actually fell asleep on my couch after the Bengals game. I don't know why. I woke up, the telly had switched itself off. I turned it on to watch San Francisco block a punt and running a touchdown, followed by San Francisco ripping the heart right out of Wisconsin. And I understand that all 49 other states had flood warnings as everyone pissed themselves laughing at the Green Bay Packers. So Green Bay, let's just talk a little bit about Green Bay. I mean, they're all there in the regular season, constantly the best team in the football in the regular season. What is wrong with them in January? Have they got no spine? What do you think's wrong with them?
I think they are the Maple Leafs of the past 5 years.
And for those who are not hockey fans, what does that mean?
I don't know. It's all the pieces are there. Now, I don't know whether it's down to expectation, whether it's down to pressure, because I would say no team feels that they deserve it more than Green Bay.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm out on a limb saying that. And they've got arguably it's inarguable. They have one of the best quarterbacks of this and the last generation.
Absolutely.
Some would say of all time.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't
They
go that far.
have a very good head coach. He's, he can scheme up things right, left, and centre. He's young, he's hungry, he's a talented head coach. They've got a cracking running back, good, solid, sometimes slightly unreliable wide receivers and tight ends. I hate playing the injury card because every team has been plagued by injuries, as they always are. I think it's a narrative that comes up way too often of, oh yeah, but they were. It depends on who's injured, granted, but when you've got MVS that has been plagued by injury this year and last year, he's not a superstar. He's a good, solid wideout who plays good minutes, has good hands when he wants to, but they just don't switch on in the playoffs. It's been the same the past 3 years, and it's not always been the same personnel. Now, I don't want to blame it all on Rodgers, but he has to take some of the blame because he is the guy in that offense that's been there all the time. And I just don't know. I think they feel that it's their God-given right and they forget to turn up.
Yeah, I mean, there was a graphic, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, it's almost like a computer overhead graphic. It looks like the old, remember the computer game Sensible Soccer, where it was all like from above like this?
Oh yeah.
Maybe you're just old enough to remember it. But
you're only a year older than I am.
No, I forget that sometimes. But Rodgers has Lazard wide open on a crossing route just before he gives the go 3 out. But he decides to go full hero mode and try and throw into double coverage where Adams is. And it gets knocked out. And so Rodgers definitely has to take some of the blame for that, because Lazard gets that ball. All they needed at that point was to get a field goal. They didn't even need a touchdown.
Yeah.
And to keep the ball out of San Francisco hands. And they didn't manage that. And I just get the impression that Green Bay, to use an expression that I quite like, Green Bay are a bit all fart no poo when it comes to getting things done. All season long they're great, and then they're not the finished article when it comes to the playoffs. And I don't know what happens from here with Green Bay. I know that Aaron Rodgers said he doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. He also went and rant about Joe Biden. He's went a bit nuts. He maybe needs a change of scenery, because Green Bay, I can imagine, is quite a difficult place to play if you're constantly shit in the bed when you get to the playoffs. But
Well, I think that if you look at their plays, and to be fair, San Francisco isn't much better. It was a 13-10 game. But if you look at their plays, you've got opening drive, 12-play touchdown, 5-play fumble, 4-play punt, 5-play punt, 8-play punt, 6-play end of half. That's the first half, and they've got 7 points on the board. Second half ain't any better. 5-play punt, 16-play field goal. They only get 3 points out of 16 plays and 9 minutes of game time. That is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
5-play blocked punt, 7-play punt, end of game.
Yeah.
That's not going to win you championships.
No, and they would have probably went into the next weekend, and they would have went into the NFC Championship game if they'd won. Obviously, who knows? Maybe they do win, and maybe they do get to that Super Bowl. But I mean, they're just not doing it in January. It doesn't matter who they're playing; they just seem to find a way to lose it in January.
I think I probably want to move on from this game, because it's just, to be honest, it was a depressing game to watch. I've only seen really the highlights, and it did nothing for me. There was a few good runs and a couple of decent plays by each quarterback, but I think I said my piece a little bit about Jimmy Garoppolo last week, and we'll come to it when we do the preview as well. It just doesn't do it for me.
No.
There's no... It's always there's that play, or a couple of plays that are like, you know what, that was pretty decent. Every single play he's got the ball in his hand, I'm waiting on an interception.
Well, we'll hopefully talk about that in the preview and be correct. Anyway, the next game, Rams Tampa. Now, I'm not gonna go off on a big rant about the Rams here, but
I watched this game live. It was a banging game. It was a great game of football.
Did you not think though that it was over at halftime? Because I did. I was starting to get excited. No. A little bit cocky. I wasn't cocky, but I still had that fear, and that's partly the Scottish rugby fan in me. But I did think the Rams can't mess this up. Brady will get back in it. They'll not mess it up.
No, I think that when you've got, and it was alluded to in the commentary slightly, that when you've got Brady, who has been 28-3 down, it's the most told story in football now. Mm-hmm. You've got Gronk, who was also 28-3 down, don't remember. He was part of that game and had massive plays in that game. They've got the experience. You've got Donald, Ramsey, Miller, and there's one more that I always forget. Well, there's two, but there's one that played exceptionally well in that game. Of the offensive, or at least the pass rush for LA, that were having absolutely stonking game.
Leonard
Played
Floyd
amazing.
had an excellent game. Gaines again played pretty well.
Gaines was who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
They had a exceptional first half. They were putting Brady under pressure. They got a couple of sacks. They got a good couple of hits in. Brady was under duress and he wasn't making good decisions. Now, I think I alluded to this in the preview that when you've got Brady and he's got time, he will make the right decision. When he's under pressure, he still usually makes the right decision, but it's not necessarily going to be for a big gain. You'll get rid of the ball, he'll take the sack, he won't try and be the Aaron Rodgers hero guy. I think to a certain extent, the Rams emptied the defensive playbook just a smidge early. And then they didn't have a lot to come back with in the second half. They showed a lot of their schemes, a lot of their, not blitz packages, but pass rush packages early in that game. And there's nobody that studies film more than Brady. So if you're looking at, okay, I've seen that look, I know what he's going to do on that look, I can now get myself out of trouble. Brady, there is nobody better than Brady at that. So that's where I think he was then able to make his halftime adjustments, lean on his experience, work with Gronk, because Gronk got a couple of good catches and good blocks for runs in the second half, which then released, for me, up there MVP of the year. Going back to our MVP chat from last week.
From Tom Brady, you mean?
No. Scotty Miller and Mike Evans. But I was meaning Mike Evans, but Scotty Miller's name came to me first. I thought they played a fantastic second half. And they set up plays. I think you're not necessarily a motorsport fan, but I think Matt, if he was on the pod tonight, would agree with me. A good Formula One driver will set up his move 3, 4, 5 corners in advance.
Yeah.
They set up passing plays and running plays 3, 4, 5 plays in advance. They went to Evans. They went to Evans, went with Fournette, went to Evans, and then unloaded down the bottom to Scotty Miller. They showed that, like, we're putting our trust in Evans. It is Evans, isn't it?
It was Evans that scored a big long touchdown, certainly. But Scotty Miller had some really important catches on third.
Yeah, so I can't remember which way it was, but they were constantly going to the same guy. It's like, this is our guy. We're putting him on our back. And then the coverage went that way. And there was a big play down the right-hand side where it was just a go route. He made a move halfway down the seam and he just went for it. Brady unloads right in the breadbasket, easy touchdown. And it was against, I think it was against Ramsey.
It was against Ramsey, and it was kind of shocking to see to an extent.
He did not make a good play because he got lost in his own coverage. He didn't get the cornerback support playing the too high man, because it was alluded to in the commentary on the game, and it was they set that up in advance with the extra plays, and then it just became a dogfight towards the end of the game, and there was just, I suppose, just wasn't enough time for Brady at the end of it. He didn't have that clutch. Okay, we've got a minute and 20 to go, no timeouts, we need a field goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which he's done so many times.
I'm just looking here, kind of the other point in this game that obviously, I mean, Brady had to play well to get them back into it. But just looking at where the starting point of a lot of the Tampa Bay scores were. So in the second, they didn't score a touchdown in the first half. We know that. The second half, they get a field goal, which started on their own 25. Then they get a touchdown, started on the LA 30.
I think that came from a fumble.
That came from a fumble. Then they fumble, and we think strip sack, game's over, brilliant. Then the Rams fumble right back. And Tampa Bay start on the 45. Turnover and downs, the Rams defense bailed them out. LA then go down the field, miss field goal. Turnover and downs from Tampa. Punt, touchdown from the 23, so that was a good long drive. And then fumble, starting point, LA 30, and then LA field goal to win the game. So as much as I think Tom Brady had a lot to do with that, and I think the offensive playmakers really stepped up, a lot of it was the Rams' arsehole imploding, for want of a better word as well. So
I think for the big thing for me, you said like, coming out into the second half, like you kind of had that, we've got this. There was a point early in the fourth. I just pulled it up on the computer here. It's 13:05 left in the fourth, 27-13. And Miller and why when I start like doing a bit of analysis, the names always go. All three pass rushers get to Brady, and he takes the sack, and he's lying on the ground, and you just see him go, oh. That, for me, was the point that I started believing in LA, and that was also the point that they started fumbling the ball. So I'm like, oh. It was just so much of like, oh, this is a great game. And I wanted LA to win this, and it's not because I didn't want Tom Brady to win. Mm-hmm. I wanted somebody else to win. My hatred is always a strong word, and I don't like using the word, but my dislike for Tom Brady has never been against him. But it was always that the Broncos would need to go through him. The team that I kind of had on my back at that point, they were the same conference. They needed to go through Brady. Now, I don't care. Yeah. And I think it's the same with the whole, we both listen to the ATM podcast, the whole, Dan Hanzus has come out with this as well now, saying, I never disliked him. I just hated the fact that he played the Jets twice a year.
That's true.
He can now start to really appreciate how good Tom Brady is and was. I've always appreciated it. I just found it a pain in the butt, the fact that, my team had to go through Brady, or Brady needed to get put out before my team would be able to go anywhere. You see him the past 2 years, and it's just like, you know what? He is damn good, especially for his age.
You have to appreciate him for what he is. Anyway, just briefly, I guess we want to move on to the last game. Sort of looking back,
and actually start the preview. And I were in.
Start the preview. What do you think? I'm just putting you on the spot. We don't need a big discussion about it. What do you think? Do you think that was Tom Brady's last dance?
No.
Fair enough. I'm.
Gut says no.
I hope in a way that it isn't, because I kind of feel that he merits one more go. But if it is, he's done pretty well coming back from that and almost doing it, Yeah. Anyway, so that was the Rams Tampa game. Obviously, the next game of the night, as I say, the one that I couldn't manage to keep myself awake for. And I did watch a wee bit of the first quarter, and it looked pretty exciting. And when the Bills went down the field,
the game of the week,
100%
the game of the week. I've watched it twice now, game in 40, and it's the quality of play was 7.5 to 8 out of 10 the entire game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. If you're looking at this play, if you take an individual play and go, this play has the potential to be a 80-yard touchdown or a 15-yard sack. Every single play had that.
Yeah.
It was just, both quarterbacks were under duress. Both quarterbacks got themselves out of pressure, made really good runs, tight window throws, long throws, sidearm throws, underarm shovel passes, got themselves into trouble and had to take the sack, threw the ball away when it was right to throw the ball away. The running backs for both teams did okay to spice it up a little bit, but there was never that one outstanding performance on the run game. Josh Allen had a couple of cracking runs. Mahomes did his bit on the ground, but again, that was a little bit down to decision making of, I'm the only person that's getting the ball right now because there's nothing open, because on those plays he was under duress and was having to run for his life, and then a space opened up. I thought the defensive lines for both teams had very strong points, and then also had like periods of play where they were just guff. That is a technical term. Look it up. It was guff. And then there was a play that was, about tail end of the third quarter, I think it was. It was Gabriel Davis touchdown that was just phenomenal. It was right after a Chiefs score. Literally they had the kickoff return, and Chiefs were 23-14 up at this point. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen gets the best protection he's had all night, and he just sits there and waits and then unloads. And Gabriel's just on a go route, again, straight through the middle. And the pass is here. He barely needs to look. He's just like, I know it's there, sees it in and carries on. He's absolutely tarnished the secondary. And it's just one play, and they're back in it. Like the Chiefs have just taken the lead. Extended the lead to a 2-score game. And the Bills take it right back to 23-21.
I was just looking at that 75-yard field goal, touchdown pass from Josh Allen.
One play.
One play.
I'm sure it's a one-play drive.
Yeah, they kick off, and then it's straight from after the touchback. He just launches it. That's it. I mean, I think it all.
Gabriel also got the go-ahead touchdown to make it 27-26 as well, I think, which was again a very good play. Not one to kind of stick too much on the Bills side of things, because obviously they didn't progress. But Allen gets protection in the pocket. The Chiefs player, the cornerback, does slip. And as soon as he does, the ball's gone. And Gabriel's just sitting in the end zone like this. Thank you very much. And I think it's the 2-point conversion after that. Bills player, I can't remember who it was now. He is going to his right, so Allen's left. Allen gets a spot of bother in it and just launches it. And he takes it, moving almost backwards here, 2 feet right at the back of the end. It's the only place that ball could have gone. And he takes it, and it's just like, what? I think my frustration with it is the Chiefs have shown that they can do it over and over. Allen and the Bills have shown progression every year, and they still come short. And I don't think it was that they came short.
I think Colin let them down. I know there's execution points, but I think they, from what I have seen, and I know I haven't seen the full game, but from what I've seen of the crucial moment of that game where the Bills could have won it, they didn't squib kick the kickoff, which would have wasted, we'll say, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 seconds, possibly longer. They didn't play any kind of proper press coverage of any description that we could have contained them away from field goal range. And to me, it was like they had a massive brain fart where they thought, A, the Bills needed to score, the Chiefs needed to score a touchdown to tie, or B, they were so worried that the Chiefs would score a touchdown in 13 seconds that they essentially just let the Chiefs tie. Now, I suppose the next point is,
I think that is down to defensive coverage on that play. I do, because I've just watched it there again, and it's the one point where I think that the defensive play call was wrong.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I don't know how many teams at that point in that game would still have a timeout left.
They had 3. That was the mad thing about it. They had 3 left.
Well, they had 3 left going into that drive. But I mean, that was the play started at 6 seconds. For them to get the play off, get down that far, and ground the ball, or ground, obviously, you'll be tackled, and then call the timeout to allow Butker to make that play. It's just, I think that shows the discipline of Kansas City in their faith in their team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The discipline for the faith in their team, not just saying having discipline on the field from penalties or anything like that. It's having the discipline so, win or lose, we are putting our faith in this group of players.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think for Kansas City, they had faith in their players, whereas I think Buffalo's coaches didn't have faith in their defense. All they needed to do was essentially, in 13 seconds, stop Kansas City getting 50 yards. And
yeah,
he didn't manage it. And I think there was that, and I think they should have called a squib kick on the kickoff. I don't think you kick that into the end zone if they have to rerun it. I suppose the next point is, and it's heartbreaking, and it should never have got to there if you're Buffalo to an extent, so you can't complain about it. But do you think they need to look at the overtime rules again? I mean, the college rules are something they've talked about, but
I think that is a conversation that's only been generated because it's recency bias on it. Because a lot of people wanted Buffalo to win that game.
I think so. Yeah,
I don't necessarily agree with all of the rules, but I mean, I know in playoff football, there's been 16 games that have gone in the playoffs. I think there's been 16 games that have gone to overtime with those quote unquote new rules, and one of them has been won by the team that have not won the ball.
That's right.
So the issue with it is, I'm all for a golden goal. And both teams get a shot at the golden goal. One team's got to go on offense first.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with the walk-off touchdown or the walk-off safety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think the walk-off safety, for me, actually, in a way, you can understand that, because if you stop them on offense, then they're not going to, if you get the safety, they're not going to score. Or if you get a defensive score, they've had their possession and it's been taken away from them. But
yeah,
I think that there's that element of, if it's two good offenses like this game was, okay, then the Bills would have likely answered that touchdown with a touchdown.
Yeah,
I think that's the concern. The way the game was going, the Bills win the toss, then Kansas City are probably on the losing end of it. And I wonder if it's not necessarily, and this is something that I've thought about, it's not necessarily the fact that they have golden score. Maybe they need a better way of determining who gets the ball, and it's not a coin toss. Maybe they do some kind of count back where the team that scored the first thing is if it's a tied game, one team scored more field goals and touchdowns, and the team that has the more touchdowns gets the ball because they've been the more attacking team. Something like that, some kind of reward from the game.
Yeah.
Who has the most yards, perhaps? I don't know, but it's just...
there's only ever one neutral field game. So why not give it to the away team?
Yeah.
That potentially takes the, I'm not going to say it takes the crowd out of it, but I know that's definitely been talked about on one of the numerous podcasts that I listen to, that to say, well, we'll just give the ball to the other team. And I don't know if it's been talked about, and it's something that I've kind of thought about. If you're going to keep the golden touchdown rule, first possession touchdown rule in place, don't have a kickoff. If you want to have it as the safety rule walking off as well, don't start at the 25. Start at the 15. Mm-hmm. They've got to go further, which A, bleeds the clock more, B, means that there's probably going to be more plays, giving the defense potentially more time or more plays to make a stop. And it brings that safety a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So if you're taking it at the 15, because most teams, if they're kicking, they're going to put it out the back of the end zone because they don't want to walk off touch return.
Yeah, or they want a big return that goes to, the 40, for example.
Correct. Yeah. So most teams will put it out the back. So if they're going to do that, why don't you just take it out? Take the kickoff out for overtime.
Yeah.
I do believe there's a bit of a tactic to it during the regular game, the 60 minutes, because a lot of teams now are either putting out the back, or if they've got a good kicker, they're putting it to the 3 or 4 yard line and making teams come out if they've got a good rush. So now then the ball's actually getting stopped at the 18 or 20. So the kicking teams actually gained 5 or 7 yards. But in overtime, why don't you just take it at the 15? You say there's no kick. Quarterback gets the ball, the center gets the ball on the 15. Run your plays. Empty your playbook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only thing I suppose I would say if you're going to do that is take the clock out of it altogether. In regular season, I think they should just stick with what they've got, because I think the regular season, the games it's not quite as brutal if you lose in the regular season on overtime. It can be, obviously, for us Chargers, but I think if you're going to do it where you start on the 15, take the clock out of it, because the other thing teams will do if they're smart is if they're a slow-moving offense and they've got 10 minutes, how many drives have we seen it go 9 minutes and still end in a field goal? And then you've got 30 seconds to answer them suddenly because they didn't start with the ball.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that is playing the rules of the game.
Yeah, I get that. But I'm just saying,
you've got the offense that you can take 3.5 yards every play.
Yeah,
that still moves the chains.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. On
no. I think that it's become a good, healthy discussion.
Yeah, but I think there's. I mean, obviously the college way. I think with the NFL offenses the way they are. I mean, if that Kansas City Chief game and Buffalo game had went to the college rules, the score would have been something like 200 to 194, because it would have taken that long. And
it's just like the John Isner tennis game at
Wimbledon. John Isner versus Nicola Mahut. Yes, went on 70 to 68 in the final set. Absolute mental.
Look at us going cross sport.
Yeah, 11 hours on court or something ridiculous like that. Played over 3 days. And funnily enough, Isner went straight out in the next round of both the doubles and the singles. Surprisingly,
it doesn't surprise me. He's absolutely good.
So I guess the overtime rules come into it, but if you're Buffalo, you've got to execute that end of the game better. And it's a real shame. I know that Dibs is absolutely devastated with this. I read his tweets. I know that him and Heather were actually rooting for the Rams because they knew I was supporting the Rams and I was wanting the Bills to win, not just because of Dibs, just because again, it's someone new. I don't have anything against Patrick Mahomes. He seems like a cool guy to me, but you know, just because it was someone different winning it, and the Bills have, you know, they're pretty entertaining. Let's be honest. So anyway, that's a little roundup of a big roundup of the four matches.
45 minutes.
Let me just blast on to the two games we've got this weekend, and I guess our reviews will inform our previews. So first up, we've got the AFC Championship game. As he's joked on around the NFL podcast, they just can't seem to get the Bengals out of that early window. So we've got the Cincinnati Bengals, who no one expected to be there, against the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think many will look past the Chiefs win in this one, but
no, I think I do. I mean, the game of the week is the 49ers Rams game. I think out of the 16 teams that went into the playoffs, it was 16.
14.
It was 16. Dang it. Yes, sure. I think it's probably one of the poorest outcomes you could get from a neutral fan getting up for the game is the early window game this week. The Bengals Chiefs, I think most people will be expecting the Chiefs to win quite handsomely. But I also kind of think that most people will be rooting for the Bengals just because of that storyline. They're the underdog. The Chiefs have been around, they've been in the last two Super Bowls. They won in a fashion that wasn't really conducive to everybody enjoying the game. Last week with the overtime, some would say fiasco. And I don't know, like Burrows has definitely got a bit of a pull to him. You've got Jamar Chase that's definitely got a bit of a swagger about him. The kicker, whose name is escaping me,
McPherson.
Thank you. I think he's got a bit of a following behind him now. The fact that he's made some clutch kicks over the past couple of weeks, I think he's played exceptionally well. So, I mean, to put it in an American term, do the Bengals have a bit of spunk at the moment? Yes. Do they have enough spunk to get past the Chiefs? I just don't know. If the Chiefs turn up like they have in the second half of the year, I can't see anybody else winning bar them. But if they turn up like they did at the start of the year, the first, say, 8 games, could be closer than a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah. And the question is, as well, as Bengals have had 1 extra day of rest. I know that that's not a lot, but it could mean a difference. And the Chiefs, was that their Super Bowl on Sunday?
I was going to bring that up in the next game. If the Chiefs win, they've got the extra day of rest. And for the 49ers especially, they need to bring it. And I don't want to jump ahead to the next game, but I believe this is the 49ers Super Bowl, whereas it's not the Rams. So I think that could be a little bit of a storyline going into that game, where there's just a little bit more on the line for the 49ers because they've had a good season and they're on their little run, whereas the Rams were, especially with their mid-season acquisitions, they were expecting to be in that game.
Yeah, well, they're expected to be in the Super Bowl with what they've thrown at this season. But I think just to go back to the game we were talking about, I think for me, my heart wants the Bengals to win, and it's nothing to do with not liking the Chiefs, because I really do like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. There's loads of great players in the Chiefs. I think Andy Reid's a good character, and I do enjoy watching the Chiefs. But I quite like the storyline. I quite like this idea that you and I are around the NFL podcast listeners that that, you
Did
know.
you see, just before you say that, did you see the video of Link that Lakeisha posted?
I've seen some of the stuff she's posted with him, but
he was eating his dinner, and there's a bit of a like tune going on in the background with a caption of the Rams and Bengals both won at the weekend, and he's just like bopping along, and his smile just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's cracking.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, obviously with Lakeisha Westland and the whole Chris Westland and Westland family thing, it would be cool if the Bengals got to the Super Bowl this season. It would be almost poetic in a way.
Absolutely.
But I could see this one being the biggest disappointment in the playoffs so far at this stage. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Bengals hang around no matter what. We said this about them last week against the Titans. I said the same thing. Oh, they might hang around, but they'll not win. But yeah, the bookies have got the Chiefs at a handicap of 7. I think that's quite low, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I was expecting 9.5 to 10.
Yeah, although I guess they got the playoff bump, and the Chiefs do tend to give up points. So there's every chance we get some points out of the Bengals. I'm hoping the roll line holds up and they get this done. But I'm predicting Chiefs, and I'm pretty sure you'll be the same.
Definitely. I haven't actually done my predictions this week, but I'm probably going to be putting Chiefs by 10.
Fair enough. Next game, as you talked about, Rams San Francisco. And I actually think this game's a Super Bowl game for both of them, because the Rams are, well, they've lost 6 straight against the 49ers in the regular season. They've not played in the playoffs for God knows how long. But Sean McVay has been owned by Shanahan. So this is a big game for
Put your way out of the dirt on that one. Well done.
Yeah. And in a way, this is, if the Rams might be a little bit sheepish going into this game. Thank you. Nailed it.
Really?
But if they win this is the exercise in the demons for them. And it's a big one. But you're right.
If they win, is it going to be down to sheer grit?
Oh, very good. Sorry, that took me a wee
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. They need to be shorn of all their insecurities. Anyway, we'll stop.
I thought I was going to be a Sean McVay.
Oh. But yeah, the 49ers are really banged up in a lot of places, but they still have Deebo Samuel and they still have Kyle Shanahan, who fortunately can't get injured. I'm joking. I would never wish anyone injured, but he seems to have the mind to figure out how to beat the Rams no matter what. What do you make of this one? What's the keys to this game?
I think George Kittle for one. He's had an okay year, but he's not. I mean, the past 2 years, he's not been what everybody expects George Kittle to be. I think he's been a little bit passive. I think when I say that, I'm about to completely contradict myself by saying I think he's been putting too much into plays. You know, it seems that he's either all in and going too overboard, missing relatively easy passes, or fumbling the ball, or not breaking tackles as he usually does, or so paranoid that he's going to do one of the above that he's pretty much just taking the reception and falling down to make sure he secures the ball. On the flip side of that, I think if the LA pass rush can get to Garoppolo, I think that is the key to the game. If Garoppolo's got time, I think I said it the past 2 weeks, he has the ability to make the right decision. But if he's put under duress, I think it it's got the potential. I don't want to harp on about him, but I think it's got the potential to be a bit of a bloodbath with what's at stake. I think we saw that in the Super Bowl 3 years ago against the Chiefs, that when he had time, he would make the right pass. But when he was put under duress by a good pass rush, he tries to put it into far too tight windows. And with the Rams pass rush and secondary being what they are, it's a worry that he'll just try and force the ball a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I suppose that would be point 2. Point 3 would be, I really, really like how Matthew Stafford has controlled the game. I don't necessarily like his play. I'm not trying to diss his play. I'm trying to separate the two. I think he's been very controlled in his running of the offense recently. I thought that was really shown in the game-winning drive. He knew exactly what he needed in exactly the right amount of time, and it didn't seem like his other players did, and he took control of the field in that last possession. He said, I don't care. You're going there. No, you're not going. You're going there. This is the play we're running, and I'm going to take my time because, if it's on the back of a play that's gone out of bounds or on the back of a timeout, it was obvious he was communicating exceptionally well with his players, with his line, with his receivers, with his running backs, to saying, this is the play we are running. I'm going to say a lot of shite at the line, but this is the play we are running. Mm-hmm. It was almost like Peyton Manning. Now, I don't want to compare the two, but just that last drive was like, there's been numerous reports of Peyton Manning going up to the line, and everybody knew the play, and he pretty much said, ignore everything I'm about to say. And everything that he said at the line, all his numbers and his random words and his Alabamas and his Omahas, were just to confuse the defense. They knew exactly what they were doing. And that's what I got, the vibe I got a little bit from Stafford in that last drive. And if you watch the highlights back, on just before they spike the ball, literally the last play before they spike the ball, it's obvious there's a couple of receivers or linemen that are just kind of, I'm coming up to the line, and he is balling at them. Get up. Mm-hmm. He knew exactly how much time was on that clock, and they spiked the ball with 2 seconds to go.
Yeah, they said there was something they said about him that he's was on the podcast today about him being some kind of dark lord of chaos or something. Can't remember the exact expression, but when the game is chaotic, that's when Matthew Stafford's at his best. And
the commentator said when he's comfortable, he'll throw a pick.
Yeah.
They alluded to that. When he gets in a groove and he's like, I'm all right here, that's when you'll throw a pick. Yeah. As opposed to, and I'm a little bit like that at work, if I'm honest. If things are going right, left, and center, and everything's going wrong, I come into my own a little bit. Mm-hmm. If everything's groovy, I'll switch off and I'll forget to put somebody's order on. It's the same thing. It's a similar principle of, if everything's right, complacency is maybe not the right word, but it'll do. It's we're good. We're good here. I'll just put, oh shit.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing the Rams have been guilty of in the game, the Week 18 game against the 49ers and last week, is it was like, oh, this game is ours. Like we're doing what we've not done before. We're beating Tom Brady in the playoffs. We've not done that before. And then suddenly it's like, oh, Cam Akers is running with the ball in one hand, trying to go around Ndamukong Suh, so he loses a fumble. Even Cooper
Cup play really, really annoyed me, because Cam Akers has had such a good game up to that point. Yeah. Such a good game. And they put the ball on his back. They put the ball in his hands so often, and he didn't put a foot wrong until he couldn't put a foot wrong, and then he fumbled the ball.
And this is the thing they were saying, that Cam Akers actually they were surprised that they kept running Cam Akers after the first fumble, because he had two, in very short space of time because he had more fumbles in that game than Sonny Michel had in 2 years. Who's obviously their backup running back. So I don't know but I don't want to dwell on that game. It's over now. But my concern for the Rams in this game is has Shanahan just got their number and there's no way of them beating them? A bit like
I never like that narrative, but keep going.
And or are the Rams going to do what they did, get up and think, yes, we're doing it, and then suddenly start. The brain goes out. Sean McVay goes into himself. He keeps running the ball when he should be letting Matthew Stafford just throw it all over them, and then it just goes. It goes to pot again, and the 49ers come back. Yeah. It's not the time where we're already in the playoffs. It doesn't matter really. We're still the winning the NFC West. This game we lose it. We stay at home. But the Rams are out, and then they're watching their division rivals play in the Super Bowl, and they're back at their stadium. And I think there's so much pressure.
That's also an interesting storyline as well, because you've got the potential for back-to-back Super Bowls being won in their home stadium.
Yeah,
and this hasn't been done before, and then there's potential for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and the Rams would be the first team to ever host the NFC Championship game, and then host the Super Bowl, ever.
There you go.
So, a lot of pressure on the Rams, but for the 49ers,
if there's a team to do it out of the last four, if there's a team to put that pressure on, I actually think the Rams are the team to do that.
Mm-hmm. And do you? So how do you see this one going? The bookies have got plus 3.5 or 3.5 handicap on it in favour of the Rams. I'm being honest, I think this will be about a field goal game. So it might be worth the risk to put the three in it. The cover is Greg Rosenthal would say on that one.
To cover the spread. So you'll pick the Rams to win, but the 49ers to cover.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a pretty close game in the end. And the only way it doesn't become a close game is if the Rams start like they've started and then just keep going. Because otherwise, I think the potential is always the Rams will get up, and that'll be instructive of them being in the game, and then the 49ers will catch up somehow because the Rams will go to sleep for a while. And that can't happen. I don't think they'll get away with it again. So, I think it's going to be an entertaining game. I'm hoping I'll be able to stay up for this one because it is obviously quite a big one. Potentially could be the Rams' last game of the season as well as the big one, putting them in the Super Bowl.
I definitely won't be staying up for it. I will be watching the game of 40 the next day. But I think I'm probably going to go Rams by 6, but that's my cover bet.
Yeah,
because I get 5 plus 5 minus, which gives me the field goal. It gives me the overtime win. It gives me a touchdown. Well, if it's 6, it gives me a 10-point win as well.
Which is possible with a field goal just to ice it almost,
Yeah. This is probably, obviously without knowing the score previous, I think it's the hardest game to predict out with the Chiefs-Bills game last week of the entire playoffs.
I think so. And I think it's ordinarily when it's a 6 seed getting to the playoffs, you're kind of thinking that they've fluked their way there, but the 49ers team are no joke. And the 49ers team against this Rams team are certainly no joke. And I mean, the Rams, I think, will finish 12-5 this season, and 40% of their losses were handed to them by the 49ers. So it's definitely no joke for the Rams, but I do think they can win this game. And I think the key to it is start strong, win at the line certainly the offensive line, and beat their if they can get pressure on Garoppolo, get their hands up in the air and stuff. I think you're right. I think he might crumble in this game, and if they bring Trey Lance in, I'm not sure Trey Lance has got enough. And might actually, because rookies tend to do this, hold on the ball too long, which will let Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller, Greg Gaines, and whoever else have a field day in the backfield, which would be brilliant.
I think they might flock to him.
Right, that's enough. That's enough sheep stuff for us. But yeah, so Kenny, it's Sunday night, 2 games back to back. I take it you're going to be at work for the first one, probably.
I will probably miss the first quarter. It's usually I'll get away somewhere between 7 and 10. So I'll probably miss the first quarter, but I will be watching the rest of that game live, and then I will catch up on Monday morning with the last game. Monday, my kind of usual throughout the year is I don't go on social media on a Monday as much as I can to allow me to watch games, because I feel the enjoyment of a game is lost when I know the score. Yeah. You don't get drawn into plays nearly as much. So I definitely this week won't be on social until I've watched the full game, game in 40. And then I might go back and watch a bit of analysis on the second game, but I'll definitely watch the first game live on Sunday night.
That's fair. I think I'm kind of with you. If I know the score, I tend to not enjoy watching it. I mean, I watch highlights and things, but I think the only time I've really enjoyed watching a game when I knew the score was watching the Scotland win the Calcutta Cup again. That was nice. But
was that when Scotland gave England the
hoof? Certainly was. That's how, in fact, the cover photo for my Facebook page is Blaze admiring the score in that game. He was a bit conflicted because Blaze came to us from Penrith in the Dogs Trust. So I think he's English now, but he's qualified for Scotland on residency grounds. So it's all good.
Wonderful.
Anyway, enough about Blaze. I'm sure we'll try and get him on for the Super Bowl episode and see what he thinks.
Oh, definitely.
Video him and see if he's got any predictions about who's going to win. He should support the Rams because he's a sheepdog, being a collie and all. But we never know. Anyway, Kenny, is there anything else we've not touched on?
I mean, I think there's a couple of storylines that would be good for off-season pods. Things like your coaching hires and free agency and things like that. But I don't think there's anything pressing for this weekend that we've not touched on a little bit, if nothing else. But yeah, no, just looking forward to a good weekend of football, and then I suppose a week off from football, get a bit of analysis in, and then get ready to go for the Super Bowl in 10 days' time. Yeah.
Well, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. The Super Bowl's.
Are we doing a Super Bowl preview and review, or what are we doing?
We'll be doing a Super Bowl preview, which will be not this coming Wednesday, obviously, because it's no one's wanting to hear us talk about the Pro Bowl. And it'll be the following week after that. So 2 weeks' time, we'll get together and we'll have a chat about the Super Bowl preview, what it is, have a wee look back at this weekend at that point, if there's any storylines that we pick up from that. And then we'll do a little Super Bowl review. And I am hoping that by the time we're able to do the Super Bowl preview, that might be the first episode of this being not only a visual YouTube show, but also a podcast as well. So you'll be able to listen to that on your way to work, or at work, or in the toilet at work, or some version of work.
Driving to work.
Or driving to work, yeah. So, so that's all for us tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. enjoy the games at the weekend. And whatever else you're doing, have a great time. Oh, just Kenny, just quick, who you got for winning the Royal Rumble on Saturday night?
Not a clue.
Fair enough.
Let's go with The Miz. I don't even know if he's in it.
He's still around. I don't know if he's in the Royal Rumble or not, but he's still around. So that was good. I thought you were going to say someone like old school, like Ultimate Warrior or something like that.
No, I'm up to date enough to know that I don't even know if he's alive anymore. But
he has passed away actually. But
oh, there you go. Look at me go. Yes, new school. I don't know. Let's go with Drew McIntyre because he's Scottish.
He's injured and not participating in the moment, but you know it's all good.
Well, you shot me down on that one.
It's all a bit of fun. Anyway, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the Royal Rumble if you watch it. Enjoy the football if you watch it. And you'll hear from us just in advance of the Super Bowl. Thank you very much.